This is Maximilian Alvarez for the Real News Network, reporting from Bessemer, Alabama. On February 22nd, 2021, world-renowned activist, actor, and Real News Network board member Danny Glover came down here to Bessemer to show his support for the 5,800 workers at the Amazon Fulfillment Center just down the road who are currently involved in the process of voting on whether or not to unionize. I got in my car and drove 14 hours down here to Bessemer from Baltimore to catch up with Danny and talk to him about why this union vote is so significant.
At the local headquarters of the Retail, Wholesale, and Department Store Union in Birmingham, I asked Danny what the Amazon Union Drive in Bessemer means for working people today and how it is connected to a long tradition of labor struggle in the South.
And I think this is a very important moment, certainly for workers. This challenge right here with a company that employs more people than any other company in the country, located here in the South, which is always considered to be a place where unions never fared well in the South. And yet we know there's a history, particularly here in Alabama, on the miners and smelt workers union in the 30s and the struggle for unionization there, and really during the period of Jim Crow, and particularly the organizing of Black workers, you know. And so it has a rich labor struggle around here. And as I told workers here, that you're part of a continuum, that you're part of an ongoing struggle that began long before you. And certainly that struggle has led you to where you are today in your own demands, to build solidarity and build better working conditions for workers. Now, from economically, since 85% of the workers at Amazon are Black, it's a unionization elevates their standard of living and diminishes the wealth gap. If we're talking about different other things, we talk about the wealth gap, but unionization has been a platform to raise people from low wages to middle class. And that is what we're talking about.
Unions have long been a vital form of worker organization designed to ensure that working people have a democratic say in their working conditions and that they are protected from the otherwise unchecked power of the bosses. But as Danny and many of the workers and organizers on the ground in Bessemer argue, the social, economic, and cultural power of unions extends well beyond the shop floor.
Unionization is a way of mobilizing, not simply just under the rubric of controlling what happens in the workplace and everything, but other ways in which organizes the community and elevates the community's sense of its own self-purpose in all facets as well. So when we're talking about unionization, we're talking about other aspects as well. You know, unionization creates citizens, provides a platform for citizens to take action.
Younger generations in the United States grew up at a time when we were often told that unions were an important feature of the 19th and 20th centuries, but that they had, quote, outlived their usefulness and were no longer needed in a modern economy. It's no coincidence that anti-union ideology has pervaded American culture for the last half-century, while unions themselves have been under attack and union density has declined dramatically. It is also not a coincidence that that decline has come with an almost unprecedented increase in wealth and income inequality, with more and more of the economic value that workers create going to the top echelons of society and less going to workers themselves.
From the robber barons of the 19th century, the latter part of the 19th century, and everything else, their objective was always the same thing: how do we control labor? How do we now, in a sense, exploit labor? Not control, exploit it. Because the objective is exploitation. You know, the whole how does that added value that they bring go to them, and less of it to the working force, the people who create the value. They create the value, and so we hear right now. It's simple right here. We have the largest employer in this country, certainly the largest employer in this area now. There were 5,800 workers here who have an opportunity to say that we want some sort of safeguards for ourselves. We want to be in a position where we set out a certain standard in which we believe is important for us to be able to negotiate around and negotiate wages, benefits, and working conditions. And those are the kind of things that happen. Right now, this large company, Amazon, controls all of that. They control the working conditions that workers work under, the wages that they're paid, you know, and whatever benefits that they may accrue without any say from the workers themselves. And the best structure for them having a say in their lives is unionization. It has been 200 years ago, and it remains the same now as well.
Amazon workers in Bessemer have decried many of the same brutal working conditions that Amazon facilities have become known for in recent years: breakneck workloads, intense physical labor, long hours, little respite when it comes to breaks, a reported lack of transparency and accountability from management, and, of course, dystopian levels of surveillance as workers' time off task, as Amazon calls it, is monitored down to the second.
These workers here at Amazon, there's surveillance on these workers in Amazon unlike any other kind of systems of surveillance around workers. They're probably the most, the most watched workers in every single detail of their work. And the one thing, they have no control at all. Here's a modern country where they have no control over their say in what happens in the workplace, and it's all to the discretion of the managers themselves. And this system has used technology in ways that we hadn't seen before. And these people come here to work. They apply for jobs to work, and they give what they have to work. But some of the conditions that they work under, whether it's breaks or where they are feeling that you're being watched and often treated in inappropriate ways. They control your paycheck, and they control your so many different things that they have no say in.
This is really what the workers' struggle in Bessemer and labor's struggle in general is all about: the need and the right for people to have a democratic say in the conditions we live and work under. And this is why workers unionizing at Amazon is a struggle that concerns all of us. Not just because workers' rights are human rights that must be fought for, maintained, and defended by every generation, but also because of the role that Amazon, as a company, plays in our society, our economy, and our daily lives. With so many fearing the hazards of trips to brick-and-mortar stores over the past year, the COVID-19 pandemic has been a boon to Amazon's e-commerce model. While millions lost their jobs, homes, and healthcare, Jeff Bezos, the founder and current CEO of Amazon, reportedly increased his wealth by over $70 billion in 2020 alone. Amazon has become an international behemoth, and it has more power and influence over our lives than most private or government entities. And yet, the general population has virtually no say over what Amazon does and how it does it. If Amazon workers were unionized, that could change.
It sets a tone, I think, for all workers. When we talk about winning battles, and because the battles that workers win aren't permanent, they're always struggling on the different dynamics, new dynamics would arise out of this, the workplace within the workplace. But you have to, when you have the unions, you're empowering the worker. And that's the most important thing that I think we have to say, that we're empowering workers. We're empowering the community itself, Amazon is where they're going to go.
When it comes down to it, workers' struggles are not a, quote, special interest category. The vast majority of us need to work to live, and the vast majority of us work by selling our labor for a wage. As has been the case for many generations, the fact that we need to do this to survive, to put food on the table and a roof over our heads, means that the bosses who employ us have a tremendous amount of power over our lives.
That is what we're dealing with. It's the same, no matter how much technology we have, no matter how much how much we dismiss the whole idea of union. The point is that human beings sell their bodies, sell themselves for a price in order to survive.
The Amazon union drive is a critical struggle for workers in Bessemer, Alabama. And win, lose, or draw, it will remain a critical moment in the ongoing struggle for workers' rights in the South and for the lives, dignity, and respect of working people everywhere.
I feel like after the 20th century of fighting for labor, fighting for rights, fighting for equality, whether it's with women, whether it was with minorities, that at a point in time, the struggle for access to and the struggle for a world that works for all of us is what we need to talk about. That and unionization and the struggle here in Bessemer is important because it has the possibility of changing not only the lives of these workers here, but while also providing the courage to foster other battles and other struggles.
We've got lots more coverage of the historic union vote at the Amazon Fulfillment Center in Bessemer, Alabama, including interviews with workers and organizers on the ground, coming your way right here on the Real News Network. So stay tuned and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels. And please, if you want to support the work that we're doing, consider making a monthly donation at therealnews.com/support. This is Maximilian Alvarez for the Real News Network. Thanks for watching.